The August 2026 update is drawing to a close within the next couple of weeks, and I think I have yet to talk about the Three Powers bundle in the birthday section of the store. I'll show you the bundle here. It ends in 11 days as of the recording of this video, but you can obtain the Tier 8 Pan-Asian cruiser Dalian, the Tier 8 Russian or Soviet battleship Navarin, or the Tier 8 American cruiser Tulsa essentially for free. You can only purchase one of these ships from the bundle. Each one costs 15,000 Mariner coins. And I think, based on my research for the one video a couple weeks ago, you can get 15,000 Mariner coins without really having to spend anything except maybe the cost of the Admiralty backing. Now, that's provided you don't spend the Mariner's coins on other things within the store and you're just going after one of these three ships. Which one do you go after? Because the bundle says you can only purchase one. So it's either Dalian, Navarin, or Tulsa. Well, I'll get it right out of the way to begin with. I don't think the Russian battleship is worth getting at all. All three of these were campaign ships. Navarin was maybe kind of promising prior to its release in the campaign when it was available for rent. It seemed kind of okay, but after the release, no. Basically, it's supposed to be a brawling Russian battleship that you can build for secondaries, and of course you can do that, but the problem with the thing, in my mind, is that it just has a bad hull. The armor scheme has a bunch of casemates everywhere, a lot of weird angles and flat surfaces that just seem to catch and arm shells, and it makes it very hard to push in with a battleship that's supposed to brawl and be in secondary range if you can get chunked massively, even when you're angled. So I don't like the thing. I do like the Tulsa and the Dalian. So, in my opinion, if you're going to go after one of these ships, it's got to be one of the two cruisers. Now, Tulsa, well, we've got a game here that I think is fairly average, and then I've got another game in the Dalian to show you. Neither of these games are going to blow anything out of the water. They're about 100,000 damage each, but here you can see, I suppose, the main value of the Tulsa. It's absolutely lethal to other cruisers because, of course, it is an American heavy cruiser with improved AP pen. And it's got the utility you would expect on an American heavy cruiser. I think when it was first released, I thought it was sort of mid, but since then it got a buff, I think, to the accuracy. And these days, I find the Tulsa to be pretty good. Essentially, what you've got is a lower tier Des Moines. This is tier 8, of course, but the Tulsa essentially has Des Moines guns. It has 6 203mm guns that reload in a base time of 5.2 seconds. I've got it reloading at 4.7 with the reload mod, but that's basically Des Moines auto-loading 8-inch guns, and I suppose you could say that separates it from other choices at Tier 8, like, for example, the Tech Tree Buffalo. A lot more guns, I think 12 in total, but they don't have a sub 5-second reload. They're around double that, I think. Somebody can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I think the Buffalo is probably like a 10-second reload. You don't still have the same auto-loading prowess as the Des Moines. Tulsa does, though. It's just got 6 guns. And I suppose you could say Des Moines also has 6 guns right on the front. So essentially, you're 2/3 of a Des Moines at Tier 8. You've got this radar, which can, of course, help you reveal targets inside of smoke screens, like hiding Neptunes, or destroyers, perhaps. And, if it's a Neptune, bunch of citadels right into the broadside. That's 7 citadels in total for this match between the Buffalo and the Neptune. So, pretty good cruiser demolishing capabilities. The HE is okay, I would say. It certainly does good damage, 3,000 per shell, and it's got a 14% fire chance. Being 203mm guns, it pens 34mm of armor, and I think the accuracy on these guns is pretty good too. The radar is also potent. It has a 9 km range, which is maybe not ideal. 10 km would be better, but 9 is fine, of course. It lasts for 35 seconds. Then we've also got a sonar with a 4.7 kilometer ship acquisition range, 3.3 km torpedo acquisition range, and a conventional heel. So it's a ship with utility. It doesn't have a ton of survivability, like most of the American heavy cruisers at higher tiers. Before you reach legendary, this thing is coated in 27 millimeters of armor everywhere. So I suppose it can protect itself reasonably well against 15-inch guns, but 16-inch guns and higher, they're going to overmatch it, and you'll have to position it carefully. I guess it's also got, if you consider this to be a problem, the very floaty shells that you find on most American cruisers. Makes it a little bit more difficult, I suppose, to aim at range. And, well, I don't think it's worth building into the range on something like this, because when the shells are this floaty, the only things that you're really going to be hitting at maximum range are probably battleships that aren't doing a great job of maneuvering. Here you can kind of, I suppose, see the problem of not building into the range. Like, we would really want to shoot that Brisbane out there with the AP. Even at this kind of distance, I think we can probably still get citadels on the guy, but not if he sails out of our main battery range and behind an island. So I suppose there's that. You might also look at the Tulsa too and wonder why you would spend your 15,000 Mariner coins on this thing, considering you could just go to Legendary tier, play the Des Moines, and it's objectively a better ship. It's got more firepower. It's got at least equal utility in terms of the consumables between the radar, the sonar, and the heel. And you could say, I suppose, that Tulsa suffers a little bit from six-gun syndrome. It's just not a lot of shells to be throwing down range, particularly if you can't get all of the guns on target in some sort of scenario like this, where we're only shooting the four guns against the somewhat broadside Mecklenburg. We get the kill, though. He didn't have a lot of HP. And this battle is pretty much coming to a close, I think. The blue team looks like they're going to win. And we've still got this full HP Gross Occur first here that we could probably farm for a little bit more damage. Looks like he's going to be coming around that island. I think I was debating here whether I wanted to turn to the right and sort of go that way around the island. But if he's going toward the right, we might as well just wait until he clears the rock. There's also a CV out there in the distance and a cruiser. We're on 3 kills, so I was kind of thinking, well, we could go after the Kraken in this one. We use the radar, which maybe isn't the best use of the radar, but what else are we going to use it for? The destroyer is dead. There's really nothing that outspots us that we need the radar to reveal, so we might as well see what the Gross Occur first is doing behind that island. And it looks like he's running straight into the friendly either Michelangelo or Leggett there. Probably not going to work out too well for him. And the CV goes down. I don't think he had any HP left. So it doesn't seem like we're going to be getting a Kraken in this one. Cruiser's still alive on the very edge of our main battery range near the enemy spawn. Maybe we ought to turn toward him and shoot at him, but I just figured with GK coming around the corner, well, might as well shoot at him. Looks like the Michelangelo or Leggett or whatever that is. I thought it was maybe gonna try to ram the Gross Occur first, but to his credit, he doesn't. He just sails past him, tries to shred him with the secondaries, and, well, the GK is not going to be floating for too terribly long under the withering hail of Tulsa, Michelangelo or Leggett, and whatever that other cruiser is that's shooting at him. He was about full HP when he went around that rock, and now, well, he's well on his way back to port. By some miracle, the other enemy cruiser is still surviving as we get a fire on the GK and go over 100,000 damage. Maybe there really would have been a Kraken available here, but actually no, the enemy team is only on 30 points. So once that GK goes down, that's the end of the battle. They're going to get zeroed out. Tulsa, though, good ship in 2026. Decent battle in it. I think this one hopefully showed off a little bit of the utility and the value that this thing has when it's fighting other cruisers. It's very good at dealing with them, and the radar is always going to be useful. So Tulsa, I would say, is a good pick from this bundle if you're going to get one of these ships. Again, I wouldn't consider Navarin or Navarin, however you pronounce it, but there's also the Dalian, which of course is another cruiser. It's a little bit different than the Tulsa, though. Tulsa is a heavy cruiser with 203 millimeter or 8-inch guns. Dalian is a light cruiser with 130 millimeter guns, destroyer sized guns. In fact, you could call it a super light cruiser. It has no armor either. In fact, it's coated in 16 millimeters of plating everywhere, so it can be overmatched by practically everything. And I think this is essentially a Harbin hull, maybe? Something like that. It's got 35,000 HP, which is less survivable than Tulsa's 40 some thousand. And of course, Tulsa has more armor. But what the Dalian does have going for it that Tulsa can't get is the smoke screen. And that, I think, improves the survivability, particularly since this is the Pan-Asian smokescreen consumable, which in my opinion is one of the best smokescreens in the game. The reason for that is because once you deploy this smokescreen, it lasts on the water for 70 seconds, and then it only takes 106 seconds to cool down. So by the time the smokescreen is dissipated, provided you've been able to stay in it the whole time, you've got like less than a minute before the next smoke screen is available off of cooldown, and that gives you a lot of versatility, particularly when you start out with 4 of them base, and then you can use the fully packed skill to get 5. You can just have mobile concealment, place it on the map wherever you want, and ideally ships are going to push into you. The Tulsa, with that, you could push into ships, you could radar them, you could exert some battle impact in that way. Dalian's not really the same thing. I think this is being a light cruiser with a smoke screen and main battery guns, and of course these torpedoes. You want it in a position where things have to push into you. So you can smoke up, you can farm them on the way in, and then you can use the torpedoes as well. I think we've hit 1 torpedo in this match, probably going to hit a couple of more. Now, a couple of things about the armaments on the Dalian. Even though these are 130 millimeter destroyer sized guns, they have good enough pen at 26 millimeters. They have a 10% fire chance, and the AP can be okay with farming damage against broadsides, 2600 AP damage. But I don't think you're going to be knocking anything out with the AP like you can do with the Tulsa. This is much more about farming DPM over time, and the guns are maybe not the best at that, I guess. They reload in 4.4 seconds with the reload mod, and they are destroyer guns. You only have, well, I guess you have 10 of them, which is more than most destroyers have, so it's respectable main battery firepower. And then for the torpedoes, you've got 4 triple launchers, 2 on either side of the ship, so you can send them, or you can send 6 off the port or starboard side. They range out to 10 kilometers, although we have them ranging out to 10.8, 60 knot speed, which is not all that great, and they hit for 14,668 damage at maximum, which is not the most impressive thing in the world, but they do reload in a base reload time of 90 seconds, and we've got it down to 82.6. So you can put up to 12 torpedoes in the water at any given time. You just have to spin the ship to win. Another problem, though, is, well, you don't want to be fighting a Schroeder when it's got you perma-spotted with its sonar inside of your smoke screen. And as you can see here, the guns get taken out. It's not like we can really deal with the Schroeder there without assistance from our team. I mean, if we'd hit him with a torpedo, maybe. But yeah, Schroeder goes down. We're safe now. Maybe we get a torpedo hit on the Yamato there. Not exactly great damage. Yamato has ridiculous torpedo damage reduction, so you land a torp against something like that, 6,000 damage. Not great. Ideally, it would start a flood, and then we could follow that up with a fire. But as you can see here in this battle, we are now on our, second smoke screen? It wasn't too long between the first and the second, and I think we got some help by sailing into the smoke screen of whatever friendly cruiser was near us. Maybe some other Italian. Speaking of which, There is the Gonzaga, and well, 26 millimeters of HE pen. That's enough to chew through the super light armor scheme of that guy. Yamato goes down. I don't think we have too much to worry about now on this flank with just the Gonzaga there. And, like I said in my review of the Gonzaga, that ship maybe doesn't have the sustain to go toe to toe with other ships. Except for a ship like this, the Dalian. I would say the exact same thing about it. It's got destroyer sized guns, just like the Gonzaga. It's got a smoke screen, sort of like the Gonzaga, different parameters, but it's not probably the kind of ship that you're going to go toe to toe fighting other cruisers or especially battleships with it. Just doesn't have enough HP or enough armor to sustain that kind of thing. But, if you've got essentially a 1v1, which this isn't even a 1v1, there's some citadels, by the way, from this AP. I think this is the only case where you're really going to be getting those, but well, Dalian goes down, or not Dalian, sorry, Gonzaga goes down, thanks in part to our teammates, too. I guess it wasn't a fair fight. And then there's Shimakaze. Obviously, this was a bit of a blowout. Kind of like to avoid showing these, but I was trying to test out both the Dalian and the Tulsa the other day, and all I got in either one of them was blowouts. This, though, I think it shows off the strengths of both of the ships, so hopefully it'll help you make your decision if you're trying to decide which one do you get. Another thing you could say, though, about the Dalian is that, unlike the Tulsa, it is totally lacking in utility. We've got a Shimakaze right in front of our face, but we've got no sonar to detect his torpedoes, or detect him for that matter. So we've just kind of got to use the old brain and map awareness. We know Shimakaze was last sailing toward the map border, so if we sail in that direction, we're going to spot him if he was headed toward our base. If not, and he's headed away from it like he is there, we might still be able to spot him because there's just not a lot of distance between the two of us. And of course, Shimakaze torpedoes, they are spotted from about a mile away at 1.7 km. If you know the direction they're coming from and you're in a maneuverable ship like this, you don't really need sonar to dodge them. We end the battle with a victory. I think this time we're top of the leaderboard. And I think I've shown you two pretty average matches between the Dalian and the Tulsa in this video. I would recommend one of these two if you're gonna get one of these tier 8 ships out of the bundle. And I was thinking, honestly, that I would err toward Dalian, but I actually think I'd go for Tulsa personally now. Tulsa is good in 2026, and you just can't beat the utility and the American Cruiser AP. It's just so satisfying to use. So I think I'd recommend Tulsa, but really you can't go wrong either way. Hope you enjoyed the video. If so, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.